Good evening, and thank you for being here. I want to thank Tom Corey and I want to thank the Medlock Bridge neighborhood for hosting this. This is a great opportunity, a great civic event for us all to talk about the future of our community. I am very proud to serve as your mayor these last 4 years. It has been a great honor of my life. I am sure that you are aware that Johns Creek has been named the #1 best community to live in the country. I want to make sure that it's very clear that I never forget that that's because of all of you. It's because of all of you that are the hardworking people, successful, you push your kids in the school. We have a lot to be proud of in Johns Creek. We're very blessed. Now, I would like to talk a little bit about what is underneath, perhaps, that accolade that we've been getting so much of lately. 4 years ago, I ran on the promise to you that I would make public safety my top priority. Today, we are literally the safest city in the United States. That is something that we should all be very proud of. It's something that we should realize how special that is, how fortunate we are. That was partly due to policy. We have had 36% increase in spending on public safety the last 4 years. We have added police officers. Last year we stood up a brand new crime suppression unit where we added 5 new officers. We added 4 cadets in this most recent budget. We strengthened our laws. If you remember back 4 years ago, we were coming out of some pretty turbulent times as a country from a law and order perspective. We were starting to see in Johns Creek some things that I never thought we'd see, like intersections being taken over or flash mobs taking over parking lots of shopping centers. I went to the police chief and I said, hey, this is unacceptable to me. What do you need? What different tools do you need to try to get this on? You let me know. We put forward some changes to our ordinances. Very quickly, once they had those tools, they were able to get that wiped out. Lower taxes has been a big focus. Today, we are the lowest millage rate of any city in Fulton County. We're the lowest millage rate in the history of Johns Creek. At the same time, we are also stronger today financially than we've ever been in our history. We're AAA bond rated. Our net position has almost doubled in the last 10 years, and we have less debt per capita than we've ever had in 10 years. So we're moving in the right direction. 4 years ago, there was a question of whether or not there would ever be a town center. Today, that town center is coming out of the ground. You know about Medley? That's going to open October 29th of next year at 10 a.m. That's when ribbon cutting will be. And you've got the boardwalk. That is going to be a great civic conference. So we're really excited about that. We're actually having a sneak preview for that tomorrow night at City Hall. And then, of course, our business environment has been doing very, very well. Obviously, we bought Boston Scientific. What you have not heard about are all the other big companies that are renewing leases, new leases coming into the office park there in the technology park. That's a big deal because offices all across the country are struggling. And it's great to know that we've actually got something that's in demand because it can either be an asset or a liability. So that's a big deal. Also in the last 4 years, we've been very focused on trying to do more for our parks. We've doubled the amount of park acreage through the addition of Park Creek Park. We made additions and improvements throughout our park system, throughout Johns Creek. Hopefully you've gotten a chance to enjoy some of those amenities. And then, of course, in transportation, we have also made a lot of gains. We have probably done more projects as a city these last 4 years to improve our roads, our intersections, and to add to our sidewalk and trail network than in any other 4-year period in the history of our city. So these are things that hopefully add to your quality of life. I know that it's easy for someone to think, well, gee, they're just going to rest on their laurels. That's not me. I want to keep figuring out ways to add value, keep figuring out ways we can improve to make us the best that we can be. I'll just say this, in the next 4 years, I want to look back and see that the government of Johns Creek is considered the best run government. That means the most accountable, the most transparent, the most effective, and the most efficient. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Please. That's exactly what we're talking about. No applause, okay? No applause, we'll let you know. I promise I'm going to give you an opportunity, okay? Stewart, the challenger, no applause. Silence is golden.
My name is Kelly Stewart. I'd like to introduce myself to you. I'm a Georgia native. My husband and I have lived in Johns Creek since 2003. I have an associate's degree in psychology, a bachelor's degree in public administration, and I have a master's degree from Georgia Tech in city planning. I have worked in all three levels of the government, local, state, and federal. I am a human resources executive. I served on the city council in the city's formative years from 2010 to 2014, and during part of that time, I served as mayor pro tem. I am also a recorded pianist, singer, and songwriter. When I made the decision to run for Johns Creek, I had met several business and community and civic leaders asked to meet with me to share their concerns about the direction of the city. And I began to do my due diligence, and I also became concerned. And I am running for mayor for two reasons. One, to restore leadership, ethics, integrity, and transparency to the mayor's office. And secondly, to prioritize our critical services first, our essential services second, and our non-essential services third. Johns Creek will be 20 years old next year. And during these 20 years, we have consistently received wonderful accolades like the best city. But this race is not about being the best city. This race is about being the best mayor. I also want to address, just starting out, because I'm hoping we'll talk about public safety some tonight, because that is my number one concern for Johns Creek. But I want to talk about this accolade that we're hearing today. We are the safest city across America. If you go to the city's website and click under city announcements, you're going to see that there. The mayor also has it on all of his material that he has. You click on it expecting to see Johns Creek, #1 safest city in America. We're not #1. We're not #10. We're not even in the first 100. We're not on the list. We're not on the list anywhere as safest city in America. Then you go down and you click on the state of Georgia. We're not #1 in Georgia. We're not #2 in Georgia. We're not #3 in Georgia. We're not #4 in Georgia. We're #5. And you'll see a red arrow that's going down. Our ratings were getting lower and lower. And it says because we had an increase in violent crimes, and it shows it going up every year for the past 3 years, and an increase in property crimes. So to say that today we are the safest city in America, that we're not even listed in the top 100, that is the biggest fallacy that's being told. And we want to prove, the mayor wants to push this false narrative to fund his performing arts center, that we don't have to fund public safety. So we need to understand where we really stand. We are not the safest city. You can go to, I encourage you to go to it and look at it tonight, because I suspect tomorrow it may be taken down. But you need to understand where we really are. As mayor of Johns Creek, that is my #1 priority. I'm not interested in the label of safest city. I am interested in being the safest city. I look forward to discussing it more with you. Thank you.
Stay right there, Kelly. So we're going to alternate back and forth. Who goes first? This governance question is two-part. Can you list the reasons why certain city council deliberations must be conducted in the privacy of executive session? And the second part is, what should be the consequence when a council member leaks private executive session information to developers or other outside parties?
Thank you. There are 3 reasons that the council will go into executive session. It is legal, land, and personnel. When I was on the city council, we did not meet a lot in executive session. We did meet, but we didn't meet between work sessions and council meetings and after council meetings again. We wanted to do the work in the public and to be transparent about it. You, as a council member and as a mayor, have to sign a document when you are in executive session that you agree to keep that information private. You're not going to share it, you're not going to divulge it. It is private for a reason. If someone violates that, there is a prescription in the charter for that, I believe, and they need to be held accountable. We have rules and regulations for reasons, and elected officials aren't above it. So I am for supporting whatever measure it needs to be to keep everything confidential in executive session. Thank you.
Can you repeat that?
No. Getting this microphone will be my biggest challenge tonight, I think. So, first off, what was said about the Save the City, what I will do is I will post to my Facebook and or website tonight or tomorrow where we are named number one Save the City. I will just bare my soul a little bit to you that one of the biggest challenges of this campaign has been unlike any other campaign I've ever been a part of, is the regular, consistent expectation that this information will just continue to evolve and grow and multiply. That's very unfortunate. Regarding executive session, and this is so much emblematic, the answer that was just given, it is, you can't say that you're running on your record and when you're on council, but ignore the facts of when you're on council. The fact of the matter is that there were executive session breaches when my opponent was on council, and she actually stopped the investigation. She voted to end the investigation, and then the investigation report, she voted to conceal that and keep it from the public. That's not transparent. And I'm sorry, these are just hard facts. That's not something I'm making up. Okay, and let me just, do I have you on one? I'll just say that I take executive session very seriously. You may have seen where we had a zoning case recently, and because of the compromising of executive session, it led to, unfortunately, that having, I believe, to be approved despite maybe there being the opportunity on merits to deny.
Okay. This is a public safety question. How will you improve residential alerts when it relates to the uptick of our car break-ins, theft, and intrusion? In my neighborhood, Wellington, we've had 6 instances over the past 2 months.
So I'm sorry to hear that about Wellington. The first thing I'll be doing tonight is sending a note to the city manager, who will then communicate this to the chief. I'm sure the chief already knows. We try to do a lot regarding our social media. Obviously, if you're signed up for our newsletter and email alerts and you're getting information, I would highly recommend, if you're more specifically concerned about public safety, that you subscribe to the email alerts from the police department. They also do a lot on social media. One of my goals in the second term is that we improve our communication. I think that we do a good job of communication, but I think that we could do far better still. We are moving into an age where it's really about getting the right message to the right people at the right time. That technology exists, and I think that we have opportunity to grow in that regard. Regarding notification in real time, I'd have to look into that. I'm not familiar with kind of the protocols regarding it.
Public safety is my #1 priority. The first thing that I would do to improve it is to fully fund it. I would never sacrifice public safety for a pet project like the Performing Arts Center. When you're given the choice of funding $5.2 million in public safety or $5 million in construction documents for a Performing Arts Center, there's no debate in my mind. We need to fully fund the police and the fire so they have everything that they need to do to ensure our safety. The points of the break-ins just go to show that we are not the safest city. You cannot have crime increasing, whether violent or non-violent, and continue to say we are the safest city. It's just not possible. So one of the things that we need to do is to work with the police, work with the fire, to figure out exactly what they need, what is the priority of their request, and to fund those. They are not being funded. The staff, we're not adding more staff, we're just replacing staff from the incredibly increased amounts of turnover. We're not even paying the correct salaries. So when the police chief will say, crime is increasing, turnover is increasing, salaries are not competitive, and specialized units have a reduction in hours of pay, we have got to get our public safety right. I'm not surprised that we're having problems because we're not fully funding it and making it a priority like we should.
Hey, right there, Councilman. This is a Performing Arts Center question. Regarding the Performing Arts Center, whether it passes or fails, will you abide by the voter's choice regardless of your personal preference?
I will. I am hoping that it gets voted down because it is not a priority for us. I will abide by it, but I am being completely transparent and honest with you. I cannot move forward with it until I have funded the critical services first. We've got to get public safety first. We've got to get our infrastructure with transportation and stormwater. We've got to get our parks. I will do it as we can afford it. We can't even afford it right now. But yes, I would do whatever the voters chose to do. I would honor that. I would not have a choice.
There we go. First off, from the Performing Arts Center, one of the things my opponent's campaign has, I think, very deceptively put out, saying that I am going to push for the Performing Arts Center in hell or high water. That is absolutely false. There is nothing in my record that would point to me having that mentality or that kind of behavior. And I have gone in my email and on social media. I'm saying to you here tonight, I said this in White Bird when we had a meeting group here last week, that unequivocally, whatever the choice of the voters, whatever the will of the majority is, that is the entire purpose of the referendum. And my only disappointment is simply just that I thought we could have a fair and honest debate or conversation as a community, and whether or not we needed that. Unfortunately, I think that it has been flooded with misinformation, and that's really unfortunate because there are benefits, but there are also costs, and that's a decision up for you. And in my next response, I'm going to try to circle back to this idea that we have not fully funded public safety, because that is utter nonsense, that is misinformation, and I think it's horrible that public safety is being used as a ploy to scare.
Okay, Joe. Stormwater question. It's two parts. Do you consider stormwater critical infrastructure, just like water, sewer, natural gas, electricity, fire department, police, and ambulance? And while you were on city council, what did you do to help solve the stormwater problem in the city of John Spring?
A bigger button or sharper fingernails, something like that. So I definitely consider stormwater to be critical infrastructure. I know that for a lot of people, I've had this conversation with so many people over the years where they say, well, why am I having to pay for stormwater? It's not a problem at my house. Well, if you're driving across the road, if you're enjoying our public infrastructure, you are dependent on us having a stormwater system that is manned. Stormwater was neglected for the first 15 years of the city's history. There was really no action taken to address the problem. And to that, as you know, deferred maintenance often leads to more expensive maintenance and repairs. We stood up the utility, and that's not popular, But the thing about the utility is it was a way of generating the funds necessary to make that triage, basically is what we've been doing, repairs to the infrastructure that are so necessary, just to try to arrest the current situation. That's not necessarily to push the ball forward. One of the first things I did was come here to Medlock Bridge. I know that I had conversations with Ann Harriman and Joanne Barton, and looked at the Schnabel report. Obviously, Medlock Bridge is taking on the chin worse than probably just about anybody. I will say that I am committed to seeing what can we do further to improve the situation. We've done that with a great program for the conveyances, and now I think it's time that we look at what we have to do in terms of a dredging grant.
Yes, stormwater is critical, and I really want to talk about it because I've got a plan for that, how I want us to fund it, and how I want to take care of it in the city. But it is more important that I go back and set the record straight, just like how I had to do that we're not the safest city. So we're going to talk about that Public Buildings and Facilities Authority. In November 2024, let the city council records show that the mayor was looking for alternative ways to fund the Performing Arts Center, and it was actually, the city council had a presentation about a Public Building and Facilities Authority. December 2024, they were putting together a resolution to form one. They didn't realize it was in the charter. April, May, and June of 2025, the city's financial advisor, Raymond James, sent them funding options. The first is the bond. The second is a Public Buildings and Facilities Authority. So you have to ask yourself, why would we go ahead and spend $5.6 million in land and then just abandon it? Well, we're not. If y'all have been going to the city's website, go look at the FAQs, number 41, about the Performing Arts Center, and it says, what will happen if the Performing Arts Center bond fails? The answer verifies everything I just told you. It said the city council may modify, delay, or cancel. They're not going to cancel. They were making a resolution to set up a Public Buildings and Facilities Authority. It's already in the charter. They're going to do it. They've already purchased the land. You know, records are in black and white documentation. When you've got it out there and you can see the video, it's very different before a campaign starts.
Public safety question. Regarding public safety, do the police and fire activity logs show any delayed responses that could be attributed to the inadequate staffing?
Yes. So the mayor is going to tell you we have 1 minute response times. Let me explain how these response times go. In July 2025, the police received 6,640 calls for response. 5,661 of those were zero response times. 85% of the police calls were zero response times, like a traffic stop, a neighborhood check, a business check. So 979 calls actually had a response time to them. The police's response time is 5 minutes and 26 seconds. Fire had 455 calls. 4 of them were zero for like tests. They have a response time of 5 minutes and 24 seconds. So again, it's a manipulation to try to take, we have 1 minute response times. Well, if you use 5,600 zero response times, you can pull the value down. The biggest concern though is ambulance, where their response times are 8 minutes to 16 minutes per call. They had 286 calls in July, and 28 of them say that they are late. So, police and fire, we do not have 1 minute response times. Ambulance, we have got to work better because there are some issues there. And the fire chief wanted an emergency transport vehicle. He didn't get any funding for it. So we have some work to do in public safety to get it back on track because you are being deceived that our public safety is where it should be.
Well, there you go again. It's like whack-a-mole. Truth. First off, Public Facilities Authority. Yes, there are memos where that is listed as an option. We often go to our staff and say, give us all the different options that are available to us for a particular issue, whether it's funding it, a problem, whatever. And you'll notice that that's not the route we took. And I would note that the Public Facilities Authority was in the charter back when my opponent was on the council, and they had a charter review commission, and there was nothing done about that then. So that's interesting. I'll just say this. It's amazing that the police chief can be misquoted to suit my opponent's purposes, but then turn around and deny the exact same police chief's hard data that is presented to the city management and the council. And I don't know about you, I mean, what do your lying eyes tell you? Have you experienced the police not showing up for 5 minutes or closer to the 1 minute? Now, I'm not saying that it's always perfect. Our fire department, they have a standard of 6 minutes. Their average is 5.5 minutes. And let's talk about the transport vehicle. We have a contractual relationship with AMR for ambulance service. And it is not currently within the scope of the law for the Johns Creek Fire Department to transport. So yes, it would be silly for the Johns Creek City Council to fund a transport vehicle for the fire department.
Okay, John, both of you have voted on whether to seal or release the vodka report from 2013. Can you explain your vote on that issue?
This is me first? Yeah, so when it was discovered that the final report into the investigation into the former mayor, Mike Walker, that it had never been released to the public, the Johns Creek City Council, we voted to make it public, to make it transparent. And, you know, what's interesting about that report is that it makes it very clear that the preponderance of evidence indicated that he was more than likely guilty of the things that he was being accused of. But it also says that Walker had a plan to stall and to try to wait out the election, in which maybe he would get enough allies elected to join my opponent and end the investigation, and he wouldn't have to face any kind of sanction or punishment. I don't know what more to say about that.
I am so glad to get to talk about this because this is more misinformation from the mayor. So let's talk about what happened. In 2013, Bev Miller, Post 6, wanted to run for Mayor of Johns Creek. In the charter, it is very restrictive, the rules and the guidelines the council has. The council has the power to complete an ethics violation or an ethics complaint. The city council does not have the authority to launch an investigation. That's what these 5 council members wanted to do. I stood against that. I told them, if he has done something wrong, file an ethics complaint, I'll sign it. If he's not done anything wrong, we're not going to investigate him. We don't have the power. Investigations are from law enforcement. They went ahead, I opposed it. That's not how government is supposed to work. You don't fund a witch hunt. The voters were the ones that ended up legislating this whole issue. The mayor won in a landslide election. Everybody who was up for re-election lost their seats 70-30, and a recall effort was started on the other 2. I was the only one that year that didn't have an opponent. The chambers of City Hall filled up every time we met, just about like this, with people waving signs, stop wasting our money, this investigation, there's no reason in it. But it's so funny that that's the only thing the mayor wants to reach